Hey, who here is a Seinfeld fan? You guys remember the episode where George learned what showmanship is? You get that laugh, you get that high note, and you walk off stage and say, "That's it from me, have a good night." Jerry taught him that lesson as a comedian, but George learned that by letting his audience linger too long, and then he learned that lesson. So I'm going to talk about the artist's dilemma. I look at the artist's dilemma as knowing when to walk off stage and say, "I'm done," and know that my work is done. I believe that as artists, you have two jobs. One is to create work that is meaningful to you, and then the other job is to find an audience that connects with that work. It's really tragic when people in our society that we look up to decide to end their lives earlier. And I can't talk to suicide with the respect it deserves, but it's tragic. And sometimes I wonder if these people look at their lives and say, I have nothing left to give, and it's better to go out on a high note and go out with a bang. So tonight I want to talk about Johnny Cash, someone who's very influential to me, and a life that he lived that I think was really remarkable. He released 92 albums over about 45 years, and I believe his life was able to go out on an artistic high note. So that's one of my main things about him. He's also smoking there. Anyway, so if you look up Johnny Cash, you're going to see a lot of different phases of Johnny Cash. He looks different at different phases. There's the 1950s Johnny Cash. When he got into drugs, it was really creative. The prison concerts, culturally irrelevant, no radio airplay, and then the American recordings, okay? This is not Johnny Cash. You guys are thinking it is, but it's not. It's Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. The movie, like all good movies do, makes you think that they just rode off in the sunset and ended on a high note. But really, 20 years after this movie took place, his life was in serious decline. He had zero self-confidence, and by 1992, he was completely worn out. He hadn't had a hit record in years, and he kind of had lost relevance. Nashville wouldn't play his records, and the cool Johnny Cash was completely gone. So he had very low self-confidence in his art and his work, and he wasn't putting out work that really connected with the culture. Enter U2. Bono had written a song called The Wanderer that he wrote for himself, but he wasn't liking his delivery, and he thought, Johnny Cash could really deliver this in a way that would connect with people, and I believe in Johnny Cash's work. And so he pitched this to him, and Johnny Cash said, okay, I'll do it. I don't see why you think I'm anything, but go ahead. That connected him with this guy, Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin is known for founding Def Jam Records, and he's was influential in mainstreaming hip-hop. So he never worked with an indie country folk artist, though, so it's a very weird pairing. And he just said, Johnny, I believe in you. I want to hear you play whatever you want to play. So they started making this collection of records called the American Recordings. And basically, it was Johnny Cash with a guitar, just very raw, very real. And it really connected with a whole new audience of a younger generation who said, man, I always heard about Johnny Cash, but his work is really incredible. And they kind of took him on as their own. So albums 1 through 4, you could hear him regressing in his health. He had asthma, he had Shy-Drager syndrome. It kept getting re-diagnosed, but he kept pushing and pushing to get to his best work. And on album 4, he had a song that he covered by 9 Inch Nails called Hurt, which I know you all have heard, right? So this guy's name is Mark Romanek. He's a filmmaker, and he basically begged Rick Rubin to create the music video to the song Hurt. And he said, I've got to do it. And he believed in what Johnny Cash was doing, and he said, I'll take one day. If I can get one day with him, I will make that music video. I don't know what I'll do, but just let me do it. So he kind of threatened Rick Rubin. If you guys have seen the video, you know it's extremely raw, it's extremely real, and it like kind of pulls back the curtain on all his vanities, and you see him kind of as this frail old man that a lot of superstars I don't think would ever allow themselves to be seen in that way. So it's incredibly moving piece of work. And I think the piece that always gets me, what they did was this really cool juxtaposition. They filmed him as an old man, and then they took this old archive footage, and they juxtaposed that, and you saw this young man, Johnny, on a train, and like immediately you see like this cool juxtaposition of character between the old man and looking back on his life, and then who he was. I love this story here. This is Johnny pouring wine out over this feast of food at his table. And what I love about it is it was completely unplanned. He said, hey, I got an idea for you for the next shot. Roll the tape. And then so he just started pouring the wine. It's a very moving moment in the video because it kind of just says like, this is all we have left kind of here, and it's all vanity. The video was a huge success. It was up for 6 MTV Music Video Awards, and people throughout the world felt it. And they said, in a 4-minute video, you made people feel something that you'd be happy to do in a 2-hour film. So it was a really moving portrait of his life, and he poured everything he had into like telling the story. So my takeaways and how I think Johnny Cash was able to do this, something I like to say is authentic is greater than perfect, which means that you're always searching for your true voice, and you're prioritizing that above the shininess of things and making it perfect and putting it out for the world to see. Because I believe people connect with real things. Lesson number 2, Johnny Cash believed in people, and people believed in him. And I think that was a symbiotic relationship. He sang to prison inmates, he sang to Native Americans, he sang to the underprivileged, and they connected with him. And so he always had those people that wanted him to succeed. So I think that allowed him to do well later in life. And lastly, I think perseverance. This is a dying old man. I don't know when this portrait was taken, but I know it's very near the end of his life. When he was up for the 6 awards for the music video conference, he died 3 weeks later. It's pretty incredible to pursue your best work and have that perseverance. So I'm very inspired by that personally. So the thing I just want to kind of leave you guys with is, if you believe that your best work is in front of you, I believe that too. You just have to believe it yourself and know that there's something in there. You keep carving away at it and carving it away at it and doing your best work, because I always believe there's more to it. And Johnny Cash's life is a testament to that. And thank you very much. Have a good night.